I'd had enough and I was just done.
I had enough and I was done.
I walked in and I told my boss, I quit.
I walked in, I quit.
And why?
Why not? Why not?
We could do this. We could do this better.
Do things that scare you.
I felt alive all of a sudden, and it was amazing.
The Go Hunt Life Show, hosted by Todd Nevins.
Hello, this is Todd Nevins, and I interview people that had seemingly normal lives and careers going, but they pulled the ripcord to epically reinvent themselves in order to pursue a life full of purpose and passion. This episode is sponsored by PrintDirtCheap.com. Jeff Chrisman, the founder of Print Dirt Cheap, and the crew there are rock stars when it comes to delivering top-quality printing at a cheap price. If you've met me in the last 3 years and I handed you a business card, it was printed by Print Dirt Cheap. They're my online digital printing company for everything. They do banners, company letterhead, a ton of direct mail pieces, funky decals, even menus for restaurants. Over 30 categories of printing products, and yes, business cards. And they do it fast, and they do it cheap. Jeff has streamlined every little aspect of the business to provide the perfect user experience, delivering the best product in the industry. I have personally been to the offices, and I have seen it firsthand. But see for yourself. Go to PrintDirtCheap.com and use promo code GoHuntLife and get $10 off of your order. Or if you want to get a sample of their work, click on Sample Pack, and they'll mail you one out for free. Go to PrintDirtCheap.com, use promo code GoHuntLife for $10 off of your next print job. This episode is also sponsored by one of my companies, Click Placement. We are a pay-per-click marketing agency specializing in PPC badassery. We have literally helped hundreds of companies over the last decade drive engagement through paid search advertising using Google AdWords and Bing Ads, LinkedIn, and of course, Facebook. We work with startups, established businesses, and nonprofits to customize campaigns to drive sales or leads, build brand awareness, sell products, or generate mobile app downloads. Hit us up at clickplacement.com or on Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn to start a conversation.
It's going to sound trite, but you should just do it. You only live one time. So I don't know of anyone who's going to be at the end of their life on their deathbed and think, wow, I'm really glad I worked so hard at a job that I don't care for and that did nothing for me. So take a chance. Again, what's the worst that can happen? It's so much more regretful when you have an opportunity to do something and you don't do it. That's something that'll stick with you for the rest of your life.
That was Burton Cleveland, and he owns a pet store that is a neighborhood resource for healthy food and pet supplies. But 2 years ago, he had a career negotiating with attorneys. He had a normal corporate sales gig with a salary and benefits and was traveling 50% of the time. He was selling services to law firms, and he had been doing that for a number of years. But he decided to make a massive ripcord decision and jump from being an employee to being an entrepreneur. A common theme that I've uncovered in previous interviews, and Burton speaks to this specifically, is that he reached a point in his career where he didn't feel like he was in control of his own success. So he quit and jumped into being an entrepreneur, but he didn't do it alone. He relied on trusted advisors and mentors that guided him from quitting his job to the grand opening of Prime Pet in Austin, Texas. He's 16 months in from opening day, and one of my favorite parts of the conversation is when I ask him how close he's come to reaching the financial projections that he had when he started the business. And his answer, he's crushing it. What he had hoped to accomplish by 2 years, he had already reached by the 7th month. So here's my detailed look at a person's jump from employee to entrepreneur and neighborhood resource. Here's my conversation with Burton Cleveland. Burton Cleveland, thank you for joining me today on Go Hunt Life.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
What city are you in, and what's your view? What are you looking at?
I am in Austin, Texas, and right now I'm actually in my apartment looking out at the lake.
How old are you? Are you married, and do you have kids?
I'm 49. I am married, and I have one daughter.
This is going to lead me into your next question. How many pets do you have?
I have 2 pets, a basset hound. 4 pets. A basset hound, a chihuahua, and 2 cats.
Wow. All right. And what is your profession?
I run a pet store right now, but I'm trained as a paralegal and have worked in that field for a very long time. So
you're trained as a paralegal. All right. So back in 2014, you had a corporate job. I mean, in a long-term successful career going, and you quit. Walk me through the steps. Like, what were you doing back in 2014? What was a typical week? What were you doing?
I basically was an account manager for a small privately held corporation that's based here in Austin, and my responsibilities were to do business development and account maintenance for them on the entire West Coast and the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So my typical week would involve going to call on various law firms and corporations who may have questions about our services, things like that, and about 50% travel to the West Coast.
And what were you selling them? What were you selling to the law firms?
Legal services, corporate transactional services, basically due diligence services, corporate filing services, that kind of thing.
You spent a lot of years in that space. What did you like about it?
I really like, I know it's going to sound cliche, but I really like interacting with people.
Okay.
I did a brief stint as a desk jockey, and it really, I just didn't care for it. I like being out and talking to people and meeting new people, and I also really enjoyed the challenge of a lot of my job had to do with negotiation with attorneys, and I really enjoyed that a lot. It was very stimulating. So
a lot of people would say that they would not like to negotiate with attorneys. You did.
I know. Well, again, my education before my paralegal training was my degree is in philosophy, so I kind of naturally fall that way. When
did you start thinking about making a drastic change and opening up a pet food store?
Really in around 2013.
What happened? What changed?
I really just I just growing tired of where we were. We had been transferred there, and we're from Houston, but also just the stress of having to meet goals that were completely beyond my control, and in many instances I had no way to accomplish them. It was completely outside of my control. It was just very stressful, and I just was tired of that and wanted to have some control over my life and my financial situation.
I hear that a lot from entrepreneurs because there is no certainty or safety being an entrepreneur, but there certainly is no real security or safety being an employee either. And a lot of times as an employee, as you just said, you have very little control over whether the company is successful or not. And certainly I've interviewed people that were caught in layoffs, and it wasn't because of anything that they had done. It was just things that the company was doing or not doing, and they just felt like they didn't have any control at all, and they were let go or they decided to leave. And so that's a common theme. It sounds like you reached that point as well.
I did, and the company I work for, my wife works there now as associate counsel, and I love the company. They're great people. It's just they were going through a change where they wanted to really grow, and they were going about it in a way that just wasn't compatible with the way I work. So we just called it quits. I gave them a month's notice, and that was that.
Did you have a plan when you gave your notice, or certainly you could have, I'm assuming, gotten into another paralegal job somewhere else or sales position at another company?
I could have, and that is initially what I was thinking about doing. We did want to move, so we had already made up our minds that we were going to move to Austin.
All right.
I wanted to move back out to Seattle, but my wife wanted to move back to Houston, so Austin was a kind of a compromise.
Okay.
And no, I did not have any plan at that point. I thought, okay, I'll just find something else, and I thought, well, it's gonna be the same thing. I don't want to do this. So how about if I actually was bouncing my life off of a good buddy of mine who owned a bookstore here in Austin. And he said, why don't you just open a business? You'd be good at it. And that had never occurred to me because I never thought I would be good at running a business. So he was kind of the impetus in getting me to think this way. And after discussing with my wife, we thought, okay, well, let's try it. What's the worst that could happen?
What businesses did you consider?
We went straight to pet store because we have some friends in our neighborhood in Dallas who opened a pet store, and we really liked what they were doing and how they were doing it. And we knew it was going to be a tough slog. I mean, no one's going to, you're not going to get rich selling pet food, but they really enjoyed their work, and their clients enjoyed them, and it was just seemed like a really fulfilling job. Not that I dislike attorneys, but I would rather hang out with dogs all day than attorneys. So.
All right. And what store up in Dallas?
It's a store called Green Pet, and they're in the Bishop Arts District of Dallas, which is the neighborhood we lived in.
Okay. Yep.
And they're good friends of ours, and really kind of held our hand through the opening process. So we had a big leg up on that. They told us the mistakes they made and what they would do differently, and so they really helped us out.
That's massive to have, mentors and people leading you along the way that have already been there. That is huge. So between April 2014 and then you opened Prime Pet December 2015, is that right?
Yes.
What did you have to do to get ready? From a corporate perspective, filing things with the state, you had to figure out where you were going to open and find a space. Like, what were the steps? Did it take that year and a half to get that all completed?
It took the main delay on opening had to do with the space that we wanted to rent. I had a very specific idea of what space and what neighborhood I wanted to be in, because that's kind of key to the way I wanted to run my operation. Wanted to be a neighborhood resource. So we knew we wanted to be on the east side, the near east side, and not be a big box, huge, loud thing. We just wanted to be a neighborhood resource. And I went through a commercial broker at first, and the guy just was not listening to what I was asking for, strip centers. And so we parted ways, and I just got on my bicycle and rode around until I saw the place I wanted. And then I went and talked to the owner of the property, who was not leasing at that time, and told him that this is the space I want. And he said, well, it won't be ready for about a year. And I was like, that's fine. If you can promise me, if we can make a deal on it right now, I'll wait. And that is what we did.
So it was currently rented or not ready, or what was going on then?
It was just not ready. It's a huge warehouse, and the landlord had been selling used medical equipment to Latin America. So the entire property was floor to ceiling used medical equipment. And the spaces really needed a lot of work, weatherproofing and climate control and things like that before they'd be available for a certificate of occupancy. So he had to go through that whole process with the city before he could lease, and it took that long for him to get his end of it worked out. Okay.
The term you used a few minutes ago, neighborhood resource, and for listeners that are not familiar with Austin, the east side of Austin is full of local shops and bars and restaurants and coffee shops. That is a really great term versus if you were to have gone to a bigger suburb here in Austin, like Round Rock, or referencing Dallas up to Frisco or McKinney. Those kind of places are certainly dominated by large big box pet stores. And you had referenced Bishop's Art District. I'm assuming they are a neighborhood resource in that area of Dallas. Is that right?
Very much so.
So you're not only just a neighborhood resource, but you also only sell healthy dog and cat food and supplies. Define your business and your differentiator from the big box stores.
Well, what we want to do and what we try to do is be extremely consultative in the products that we sell. And by that I mean my goal is to match the animal up with the best possible food for the budget that the animal's parent has and that kind of thing. I'm trying to make sure that no matter how much money the animal parent has to spend, I can get them a high quality food that will serve their animal the best that it possibly can. So I make sure that any foods that we carry, I know where the ingredients are sourced. I know where they're manufactured. I know they're checked on regularly by the agencies that are responsible for ensuring product purity. And any food that gets a recall, I'll investigate what caused the recall, and if I see it as sufficiently serious, I'll drop the line. I would not be able to handle it if I sold somebody something that injured their animal. So
sure.
That's our main thing, is to make sure that, and I guess I should say that the reason we got into this in the first place is because we have two animals who benefited hugely from diet changes. They both had allergies and were miserable. And we had a veterinarian who said, hey, these are food allergies, so let's try a couple things. And our animals' lives were greatly improved by that.
I can relate to that. We have an English bulldog, and he is 12 and a half years old. And about 3 or 4 years ago, we stepped away from the dog food that we bought out of a big box store and started making his food naturally in the kitchen, rice and real meat and vegetables, and it changed his life. It absolutely, I think it added 2 to 3 years to his life. His coat changed, his health changed, everything, arthritis. It was a massive, massive difference within a few weeks to a couple of months. It was obvious that this was the right move. That is cool. All right, so let me jump back just a little bit. So you had to learn, I'm assuming you had to learn all of this stuff. I mean, you certainly applied what you learned towards your own pets, but you had to have inventory and everything ready to go on opening day. Describe, like, let's say the 60 days leading up to you opening the store. What were you going through, and what did the store look like at that point?
The store looked like an empty warehouse with a filthy floor and filthy walls. So the first 2 weeks was me scrubbing. Every day I'd go over and scrub. And removing paint from the walls and things like that, just to prepare the space to be used. And then finding the fixtures, I ended up having to drive down to San Antonio to buy the store's fixtures from this completely insane old guy on the west side who's just got like this total junkyard of fixtures out there. So got a bunch of fixtures, hauled them back up here, put them up, then started contacting distributors, and setting up my initial inventory, which was quite small. We had very limited funds to work with when we started off. So making the store look like it wasn't empty was a big deal. And now, of course, I can't fit anything else in there. So also just the stress during that time of watching money go out without money coming back in. That's a hard thing to watch, especially when you're not used to seeing that. And I'm not a huge risk taker and that kind of, in financial terms. So my wife is much more comfortable with that kind of risk than I am. So she was kind of helping me cope with that. So did you come up with a full-fledged business plan and projections and Excel spreadsheet, all of that? I didn't, actually. I had a business plan in my mind, and my wife and I had just vague numbers that we thought would be good targets to aim for. What would be acceptable to us as a sign of success or failure, and how to recognize things if they were not going well, that kind of thing. So basically, we just had some backstops that we had in place that were kind of guiding our decisions at that point.
And you're all self-funded. You didn't get any outside funding or crowdfunding, Kickstarter, nothing like that?
No, self-funded. We've actually had many offers from people to kick in now, even, and I don't want it because it's going to sound selfish. I don't want anyone having any say-so over how I run my business.
That makes sense. I'm assuming customers or people that have heard your story that have come to you and said, what, I believe in what you're doing and I want to help, or how do those conversations start?
It's customers and friends who see what we're doing and, wow, it looks fun. It looks, you guys are doing great. Love to be a part of it, that kind of thing.
That's interesting. All right. So how big is the space?
The space is in its entirety is about 1,100 square feet. And of that, probably 900 square feet is actual retail space right now.
All right. So you're gearing up for opening day. All the money has been going out. I'm assuming it's going out in rent and buying fixtures and buying products and insurance and all of those fun things. What was the most unexpected expense leading up to opening day that hit you?
I really didn't have any unexpected expenses. And again, that's thanks to our friends from Green Pet in Dallas. Nothing blindsided us.
That's incredible. So describe opening day. The doors open. You're hoping customers come in. What happened?
We just soft opened because it was in December that we opened, and we figured, okay, there's not going to be too much traffic or, no one will be out there. So we just kind of opened the door.
And that was it?
That was it.
All right.
And gradually just a trickle of people came in. I had a number in my mind of what we needed to take in revenue each day. And, the first couple of days that number didn't happen. And then the first couple of weeks that number didn't happen. And then it started happening and just kind of been going since then. But we didn't have our grand opening party until March.
Oh, man.
2016. So we wanted to have, enough time to build the inventory up, because I know, from my own perspective, that if you walk into a place and it's empty and that's the first time you've gone in there, you're not likely to come back.
No, bad impression. Okay. Yep.
So I wanted to make sure that what we had was appealing, visually and in terms of product spectrum, so that we could keep the customers who did walk through the front door.
Man, I keep looking at this term. I wrote it down, neighborhood resource. On your website, you list the other local businesses there in your neighborhood. Only one, I believe, is pet-related, Corner Vet. And the others are just the other businesses there throughout your neighborhood. How do you band together with them to help market your business, or did you also band together with the other pet stores here in Austin?
Let me tackle the first part first.
All right.
The East Side it's just a community for everyone's very open and everyone's very helpful to each other's business. So we have been working with all the other businesses. We follow them all on social media. We're all in pretty tight contact with them. We sponsor yappy hours and things like that for them. We give gift certificates to the apartment complexes. It's kind of a community over competition thing, which is a phrase that a co-tenant of mine uses a great deal. There's no reason to compete with each other when you can help each other.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of the philosophy that all of us operate on the East Side. Whether it be a brewery or a restaurant or whatever. And with Corner Vet, we kind of have a symbiotic relationship with them in that we don't sell, flea medications and things like that you should really be getting from a veterinarian.
Mm-hmm.
So we send people to them for that kind of thing, or for serious questions. If someone comes in and asks me, tells me a story about what their animal is doing, and it strikes me as something that really should be looked at, but soon, then I'll send them to Corner Vet, and Corner Vet sends people to us to buy food.
What does a typical week look like now? Because you're not traveling 50% of the time to the West Coast anymore. You've now been at it over a year from your grand opening. What does a typical week look like now?
Typical week now is anywhere from 65 to 70 hours a week with me. I'm the only worker. And most of that time is spent still buying more product, trying to expand the product lines, and me reaching out to other businesses and other communities to try to expand my business. So that's about it. I take Monday off, which is why I had such a weird schedule for this call. This is my only day off. So
got it. Okay. We jumped over this earlier, and you mentioned certainly Green Pet out of Dallas that has helped you. What about there are a number of other locally owned pet stores here in Austin. Is there any sort of an association or camaraderie with those as far as sharing information?
We have a little camaraderie with a couple of other like-minded pet stores here in Austin.
Okay.
There are some there are some local pet stores here who are not quite like-minded.
Okay.
I don't want to go into too much detail about that, but there are other ones who, again, are on the community over competition. Like, I'm not going to try to sell somebody the wrong thing if I know they can get it from one of these like-minded competitors, because it doesn't do me any good and it doesn't do the animal any good if I'm just selling you something so I can make a sale.
Yeah.
That's something that I find distasteful personally, and that's why we just don't do that. And we have great respect for others who feel that same way.
So 16 months later, what has been the biggest change or changes that you've implemented into the business since you opened the doors?
The biggest change has been really just involving inventory tracking as our sales have grown. I can't just keep it in my mind like, I need to order this, I need to order that. I really need to make spreadsheets and track what has moved throughout the week and things like that, and really try to nail down what is just sitting on my shelves doing nothing and what is actually desirable to my customer base, instead of just kind of flying by the seat of my pants on that, really having to pay attention to it and give it some serious analysis.
Do you use a third-party tool for that, or do you use Excel?
I use Excel.
Excel? Okay. What about any of the biggest decisions or mistakes that you made over the last 16 months that you wish you had a do-over on? Any come to mind?
I wish that I had hired a bookkeeper right away. I have one now, and I wish I had hired her straight away.
just because of the amount of time or mistakes or just overall work and that it takes away from what your other responsibilities are?
Just all of it. I mean, having my degree in philosophy, my brain does not work in the way that accountants' brains work. I can't. My mind is not plastic enough to do that. So I don't understand double ledger accounting. Let me put it that way. I kind of get it, but I don't like it.
All right.
I was just trying to do that on my own, basically out of just trying to save money, and it ended up resulting in incorrect reporting and things like that were giving me bad information that was critical information to the store's success. And I after about a year, I was like, okay, I really need to get someone in here so I can get good reporting on this. No matter what the cost of it, it'll pay for itself. So
yep.
Get a bookkeeper and get a CPA.
Bookkeeper and a CPA. That's probably applicable to just about any sort of business that you can ever think of starting.
Yeah.
Big time. All right. So do you only sell out of the store or do you also sell online?
We only sell out of the store, and the reason for that is most of the brands that we carry do not allow online sales.
That's interesting. So is it because they're also selling online or how does that work?
No, it's interesting, and this is something I really like about this business, is that there are a number of food producers out there who, and other products for that matter, who only sell to independent stores. They do not sell to chains. They do not sell to big box.
Really? And are some of those companies are local here to Austin, and I'm assuming some of them are not? Am I accurate there?
You're right, yes. They come in every variety. So, we try to carry as many local products as we possibly can, and we carry quite a lot of them. But we also carry other U.S. and Canadian-made products that abide by this way of thinking, that you support your local community over just trying to have massive sales. Support the independent, person instead of another corporation.
Your situation is simple. You've got one location. You're there every day. You're clearly the owner. Okay, the Petcos and PetSmarts of the world, that's easy. Those are big box stores. But there are stores in between. Where do they draw the line of independently owned, but this pet store maybe has 14 locations? How do they determine what's big and what's small?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know the answer to that because there's a competitor here in town who has multiple locations and carries most of the same stuff that we do.
Okay.
But I would imagine they may make those decisions based on geographic spread or something like that, or a public company owned by, institutional shareholders or something like that.
What about creating your own products, your own personally branded products for your store? Is that in the works? Is it something that you want to explore or no?
It is something that we considered at first and that we probably will revisit at some time. But from our perspective, being this young a company, I was not willing to take on the additional licensing and liability that comes with that. As you can imagine, you have to have all kind of permitting to manufacture and sell that kind of thing. And the additional liability insurance that would be required just didn't make sense to us at that point.
So if you're making food, that's a whole nother level of responsibility versus you're making toys or collars or something like that, correct?
Exactly.
Who governs pet food? What organization?
The state has a couple of entities within its apparatus that do, and they're notoriously difficult to get approval from. It's slow, very slow.
All right. I never knew that. Now, you're 16 months down the road. Based on your original projections in regards to expenses and inventory and profit and all of that, how close have you gotten to your financial estimates?
We crushed it.
You did? All right.
Yeah.
What do you think was the biggest contributing factor to you crushing them?
I think hard work and just executing faithfully the plan that we had in our mind. I like to, in terms of planning, I like to plan for the worst. That's just my outlook on things.
All
Generally,
right.
not that I'm a miserable guy or anything like that, but I don't like to think, oh no, it'll go great. I'm usually if something can go wrong, I expect it's going to go wrong, and just be prepared for it.
All right.
So we were fully prepared for 2 years of no profit. And we turned a profit after 7 months.
There you go. All right. Okay, so with that success, would it make sense to open a second location or move to a bigger store in your current neighborhood?
We're kind of considering that right now, expansion.
Into a bigger store or a second location?
A bigger store. My concerns with the second location are manpower for one. That would change the dynamics of our finances significantly. But also, we are right now drawing people from the Miller neighborhood all the way to 183, all the way from South Austin. We have people coming from all over the place, not just our neighborhood. And I think at this point that if we were to open another store, we would end up cannibalizing more than anything.
Yep.
And I don't know that I ever want to grow into a big thing. I haven't gotten there in my mind yet.
What are you focused on for the business in the next 12 months?
I'm focused on hiring somebody so that I can get out and do more marketing of the business. But I want to ensure that anybody that I hire is well-versed in animal nutrition and understands exactly why we carry the things we do carry and why we do not carry the things we don't carry. And somebody who's able to explain that to customers in a nice way. It's a difficult conversation to have with somebody that feeding their animals something that's not good for them.
Sure. Yeah. Okay. So if you hired someone, they would be in the store while your customers are coming in, and they would be educating your customers on all the different types of food and products that you sell, and you would be focused in on marketing. How would your day change? How would you go about focusing in on marketing?
I would basically spend most of my time networking with other animal-related groups in the neighborhood and across the city and see if we could also get to where, for example, right now we donate a lot of food to Meals on Wheels, and I would like to expand our presence in that way. I would like to be more helpful to other pet-related services in the city. Not only as a means of, assisting them, but as a means of further, attachment to that community generally in the city. So,
yep.
Just because that's, I like animals and I like animal people. So,
animal people are always good people.
Yes,
they definitely are. All right, so people are listening right now that are in a job, they're traveling, they're on a plane, they're in a cubicle, like they're commuting to somewhere that they never dreamed that they would be doing this at this point in their life, and they've always dreamt of doing something else, whether it is opening a pet store or opening a bakery or writing a book or whatever it may be. What advice do you have for them to help them get up the courage to make the change that you made?
It's going to sound trite, but you should just do it. You only live one time. So I don't know of anyone who's going to be at the end of their life on their deathbed and think, wow, I'm really glad I worked so hard at a job that I don't care for and that did nothing for me. So take a chance. Again, what's the worst that can happen?
Lose a little bit of money, and gain a whole lot of experience.
That's right. Well, and have the satisfaction and the knowledge that you tried.
Yep.
That is, it's so much more regretful when you have an opportunity to do something and you don't do it. That's something that'll stick with you for the rest of your life. That's
right. Okay, you can find Burton online and in the store at primepetaustin.com in East Austin, and also an awesome Instagram feed with tons of cool pictures of happy customers, Facebook and Twitter as well, at primepetaustin. And that is it. Burton, thank you very much for your time today.
Yeah, thank you. It's been fun.
Don't forget to hit up the rock stars at printdirtcheap.com. Use promo code GoHuntLife for $10 off of your next print job. For fast, cheap, and high-quality online printing, it's printdirtcheap.com. Hey, Life Hunters, thank you for listening to this episode of Go Hunt Life. If you like the show and would like to support it, go to iTunes and do this. Subscribe to the show, leave a rating, and review it. It helps. and thank you. If you or someone that you know has quit their normal life to follow their dreams, I would love an introduction and maybe interview them on the show. You can find me at GoHuntLife.com and also on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Pinterest at GoHuntLife. Until next time, stay weird, dare greatly, and ripcord out.